Welcome back to Masterpiece Theater Record-ology Edition. Today I'm going for a film noir look. Actually, I'm just trying to use some economy here and get the intro done tonight as soon as possible. So, if you want to find out where we are tonight and why I look like this, check out Beyond the Purple Suitcase, our Vlogmas show. You'll find out all about it. It's going to be awesome. And there is a Record-ology tie-in. Anyway, tonight we are going to review a record player that I stumbled upon the other day at the thrift store. And let me tell you this, guys, it was a huge surprise. You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to Record-ology.
I really was in the mood to review a record player today, and I recently came across this. Now, I have never seen one of these before. This is a BelAir semi-automatic turntable. I don't know who really makes it, because you have to ask yourself that these days. I don't know if it works. I paid $20 at a thrift store, and it's something I've never seen before. Like I said, it's semi-automatic. I don't know if this is like a 90s piece or if this was made like 3 years ago. It's weird that I don't know about it, because I'm getting to the point where I either have reviewed everything or I feel like I've seen everything. Just to put this in perspective, I want to show you how small it is, because it is teeny, teeny, teeny. It probably looks bigger on camera. For scale, here's a record. So you can see that that is indeed that's a 12-inch record. That is a very tiny, tiny little device. I haven't cleaned it off. I haven't dusted it off. I took off the label. I do have my receipt, but that's about it. So let me go ahead and set the shot up so we can take a closer look. We'll clean it up and we'll test it out. We'll tear it down. We'll do a sound test, all that kind of stuff. I've said it before and I stand by it. Get yourself some of these disinfecting wipes, also known as Clorox wipes. You can get them at, these are Walmart brand. There's Clorox branded ones. They don't have bleach in them. Somebody is like, oh, you can't put bleach on that. They don't have bleach. That's just branding. It's literally just a disinfectant cleaner, and it's a great kind of pre-moistened wet wipe, and it's perfect for cleaning off and disinfecting stuff from thrift stores, getting the dust off. Dust is disgusting because, you probably already know this, dust is dead skin particles, and I know they're not mine, so I don't want dust on my unit. Now, my grandpa was one of these guys, old timer. He's like, God made dirt so it won't hurt kind of guys. You know what I mean? By the way, you guys, so if you see something on the shelf and you're like, at a thrift store and you're like, oh, it's on the shelf, so they must have tested it. You need to understand what testing means to these guys and gals. Testing to them means, does it power up? Does a light come on? They have, they don't necessarily have any clue about this stuff. So don't take it for granted that it works, because it not probably doesn't, but there's a likelihood that it doesn't. So hold on to your receipts and actually don't rip off the tag. I'm pretty confident if this is broken, I can fix it, but I've sort of doomed myself. If I can get a return on it or I can take it back, it's just going to be for a store credit. And for everybody that's screaming at their phones right now and saying, hey, why would you take something back to Goodwill? Because I donate a lot of stuff to Goodwill. I am a power user. We donate a lot of stuff, more than you guys know. So let me get the rest of this unpacked and unwrapped, wiped down, and we'll take a closer look. Okay, let's start with the back. There's no jacks to connect it to anything. There's no headphone jack. There's nothing. There's a permanently configured RCA output with, pretty standard mid-grade wiring. There is what looks to me to be a fairly modern power cord. So I'm starting to think maybe this is not from the 90s. Maybe this is more like, last 6-7 years. We'll have to see. When it comes to this, there's a couple things here. First of all, I like the fact that there's no wall wart, that it actually has an AC power supply. So the DC transformer is going to be inside, because surely this is going to be powered by a DC motor. I mean, maybe not, but. And then this, I prefer it when there's jacks on the back versus a permanent cable, because if these ends wear out, that's annoying. Now, some units, especially vintage units that have this, once you open it up, which we're going to open this up later, but once you open it up, you'll see that they're just, it's just a consumer cable with ends on it plugged into a board. This may be wired directly, and we may not have that option. If that's the case, then this stinks, because this entire record player is then predicated on the survival of a not high-end cable. You know what I mean? All right, let's look around the side here. There's nothing to see on the sides. Let's look at the front here. So it is 2-speed, 33 and 45. BelAir. Does that have film on it still? It does. Okay, now I'm really starting to feel like this may not be that old. Auto return turntable system. That tells me it's semi-automatic, meaning the arm will return, as it says, but it will not engage to begin. And the reject, which basically sends the tone arm home. Now, do not be misled by the massive disgustingness of the dust under here. You may say, oh, it's definitely old now. I can tell because of how much dust is on it. We reviewed that Sony automatic turntable from 2017 that had more dust than many people's 40-year-old turntables. So it depends. Apparently this wasn't taken care of, or it was forgotten and, they got bored with it and set it out in the garage. And they lived in a very dusty environment. It's hard to say. But it cleans right up. It wipes right up. Now, if you're like me, the first thing you're doing is trying to analyze the cartridge. What we're looking at here. It does have a red tip. Don't presume that it's necessarily a ceramic right off the bat. As we've talked about, there are red tip magnetics, groove tool clones, and things of that nature. So time will tell what it really is. So the Platter, okay, this does not come off. That's actually plastic, not rubber. That looks like metal. I can't tell if that's metal or just plastic. We'll find out. There is a little circlip holding on the Platter, so when it's tilted sideways, it's not going to, lift right off. So we'll pop that off and see what's under there, and we'll try to get in the cabinet as well. We got a cheap 45 adapter with another pound of dust. Just it's amazing how dirty this thing is. I've never seen this model of counterweight before. We do have a clip on the tone arm. This is either spring mounted or there's a weight inside there. Let's see if I can figure that out. I can't tell for sure. This is pretty hollow inside here, but this looks solid, so that might be a weight. We're going to test the tracking force and everything else. All right, it's time to look at that cartridge. Okay, here's another look at the cartridge. This kind of rectangular metallic piece tells me it's not a Chuodenshi ceramic. It is using a common ground. I'm going to back this out so you can see the wiring a little bit better. How it's wired. Very interesting. And a metal cantilever again, which is good. That's a good thing. I'm going to see if I can feel this stuff. I know you're not supposed to touch it, but that feels pretty sharp. That actually feels pretty dang sharp. So, again, I respect the advice that you should replace it immediately. I don't necessarily have the right one, so I am going to take the risk on my record and not replace it. So, again, that's my choice. All right, so far so good. Let's look at the bottom of this unit. No surprise, pretty dirty under here. I am seeing a couple interesting things, which I will point out in just a second. I can't help myself. I have to clean this off. It's driving me nuts. Cabinet is plastic, but it feels like a high quality ABS. It doesn't feel like a super cheapo plastic like we saw the other day on that Five Below record player. By the way, you guys really liked that video, which I'm thankful for. Thank you for watching that. It was fun and surprising how that turned out. I love it when stuff turns out positively surprising. Okay, so we got the feet here. They're like just sort of a rubber foot. And again, I've never seen anything like this, which is intriguing to me. I'm glad that it's different. There is the bottom of the motor. You can see the speeds are adjustable. The pots are available right on the outside. That's great. And then over here, this is interesting. This took me half a second. amp. What do you think that is? That would be the preamp. So it does have a built-in preamp. Interesting choice of terminology. Moving magnetic amp. That's what that's saying. So we do want the preamp on because that's how we're going to test it here in a little bit. So speaking of testing, let's go ahead, check the tracking force, check the speed, turn it on. One thing I've noticed is kind of interesting is how low the record sits. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but that is really close to the plinth, which is this top surface here. I like that. I think that's cool. It kind of reminds me of the Revolution Go from Victrola, but this is a really low profile Platter. I wish it was a full-size Platter. I don't really care for the small ones, but it helps it get it into this small, compact package. So far, I'm thinking use case-wise on this right now that this might be, perhaps if it tests out okay, sorry, I'm just dusting the inside of this a little bit, maybe the ultimate like dorm room, apartment living kind of record player for people on serious space constraints that want, higher quality sound. Because like I said, I think this is a magnetic cartridge. So let's go ahead. And the other observation is this tone arm lift, that was in the up position actually. It goes up and down a very small amount. But I guess with a low profile, platter, maybe it just doesn't need to. But you can lift it a lot higher. Like you can lift it up to here, but on its own, the lift only takes it up there. Okay, so it works. Yay, it works. Literally, guys, a record player, wants to return it. A record player is so simple. You guys may not realize how simple it is. This is not that high tech, okay? You've got a motor that via belt or a direct engagement of the platter rotates this to the speed that it's supposed to be at, okay? Then you've got the cartridge. The cartridge is really the only piece of tech. I wouldn't even call it necessarily high tech. This is a transducer, just like a microphone or a speaker. And a transducer either takes electrical energy and turns it into mechanical information, as in the case of a speaker, or it takes mechanical information and turns it into electrical information, as in a microphone or a cartridge. That's all it's doing. And then there's a small circuit for the preamp, if it has one. And that's literally it, you guys. It's a simple device. Now, that's at its bare minimum. There are other things like, there's a tone position or a tone arm position sensor, so it knows, when it's over the record and when it's not. There can be other bells and whistles, but at its most basic form, a record player is really, really simple. Okay, so I want to test the speed of this without it rejecting. Okay, so we have it in place there. That is going to be 33 RPM. I'm going to flip on the light here. That'll help the strobe markings come to life for us. And we're going to zoom in. And we are looking right here at this ring. Sorry, my hands are a little shaky. And you can see how those bars are marching to the left. By the way, if you notice how sharp this looks on camera compared to the way we used to do it, I found that the ring light, which I just flipped on, is bar none the best way to do it. If I turn on just like the overhead lights, the incandescent overhead lights, it looks very, very blurry and it's very hard to see, especially on camera. So that is a bit fast, which is a bummer. But we can adjust the speed. We can get under the hood or under the bottom of the turntable and make an adjustment. I'm going to flip this now to 45. So 45 is going to be the middle ring there, and as you can see, it's also fast. It's pretty fast. I would say that this amount of speed, not inconsistency, I would say this amount of speed fluctuation from the norm will render a higher pitch. That will render a higher pitch. Although the music we're listening to today you probably haven't heard before, so you may not notice it. So in order to get this dialed in, all we need to do is take our little jeweler's screwdriver and make that adjustment on the bottom of the turntable. It's really not that big of a deal. While we're spinning up this this disc here, let's see how the auto return works. So it gets to the center of the record and it returns the arm. That's what a semi-automatic turntable does, and then it'll lower it down in like that. It just, you can't hit push to start and have it start playing, but it will, bring it back home. So that's a semi-automatic turntable. It's been a while since we reviewed a semi-automatic turntable on this channel, but they're cool. I think they're neat. It's a kind of a mid-grade kind of deal. All right, let's check the down force, the tracking force of this tone arm. Okay, let's see what she tracks at. This time I'm not going to have it spin off because I forgot to turn off the record player. And here we go. All right, make sure that the lift is fully depressed so it's not hanging up. 3.45-ish, so 3.5 grams is perfectly fine for this magnetic groove tool type of cartridge, which is great news. So no damage to the record because of weight. There's not an easy and quick way to tell that the alignment of that jeweled tip, that diamond, this is probably a diamond tip, that the diamond tip on the stylus itself is aligned properly. So if that is aligned properly, which it probably is, it's fairly rare that they're not, then this should do absolutely no damage to your records, which is a great thing. All right, let's test it out. Okay guys, so let me explain how we're going to do this. I have the mono microphone connected. The way I've got things configured right now, I can't do a stereo, and instead of doing a line feed test, I felt like doing an ambient one. However, I've got the good Fluon speakers, I've got my subwoofer connected, I've got the microphone approximately 2.5 feet from the speakers, so it should sound good. If it's going to sound good, it'll sound good. I've got the stylus cleaned, I've got the record cleaned. So let's go ahead and give it a listen here. I hope it's a good test. We're listening to Enoch Light on a different record. This is a Command Stereo 35 millimeter recorded record, recorded on film. So make sure that we're over the front here, and okay, let me not bump it. And here we go. Very bright, a little harsh. Good stereo separation to the ear. Again, you're not going to get that because you're on a mono mic right now. Let's try another track. Excellent stereo separation. The highs are very prominent, but I got good bass response coming from the sub too. You know, it's hard on these videos to hear any bass, but in the room I am getting a proportionate amount of bass. This cartridge does sound pretty harsh, but it's a lot more detailed and there's a lot more happening than you would get with the ceramic. So I am pretty confident this is a magnetic. I think this is the Groove Tool. Some of the harshness may be the recording. I'm not that familiar with this record. I haven't listened to it. The reason why I use so much Enoch Light is YouTube allows you to use longer amounts of this music without losing the monetization on the videos, which we have to have that or we cannot, afford to buy things because this already takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to do this show and money. So we need to be able to invest in the program. So I appreciate you guys watching the ads. I know they're annoying, but they literally help us out. Okay, let's try again. You know what? Let me put on my other Enoch Light record just because I know the vinyl's in good condition this way. This one might just be, a crackly record. So I want to use a known value. So let me swap it out for the record. I know we've used a lot, but I know it sounds pristine. So let's check that out and see if some of that harshness and crackle isn't coming from the record itself. By the way, this was the record we were just listening to. Some people love these Command records, these Command performance records. Other people say, yeah, they really aren't all that they're cracked up to be. So it's also very subjective. But let's try that Project 3 record, that quad record, and give that a listen. A little different angle just to change it up. By the way, thank you for making it this far into the video. The average view duration of videos on YouTube, just in general, is about 50% of the video. So half the people click right out of it, half the people stay till the end, and that averages out. So I'm going to clean the stylus again. My preferred method for cleaning a stylus is with the anti-static. This one's a Hudson Hi-Fi anti-static brush. It's kind of like a mascara brush with an anti-static fluid. And some people say that the dipping kind, the gels, tend to leave behind a residue. I haven't, and that residue would then attract more debris. And I also want to clean this record again with the anti-static brush. We're going to be listening to the One Note Samba. Somebody picked this out the other day on one of the videos, like, hey, is that One Note Samba by Enoch Light and the Light Brigade on Total Sound Shock and Quad? I'm like, very good ear. Yes, it is. So let's go ahead. I'm going to drop kind of maybe a third of the way into this track. We know this sounds clean. We know this sounds awesome. So let's give this a listen and see how she sounds. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have a winner, you guys. This thing sounds amazing. Okay, see how much different that record sounds versus that Command Performance record? It's way cleaner, way smoother. There's no crackle. This is a great record player, you guys. The speed issue, easily fixed. Not fun to watch me do it, so we're going to skip over that. But easily fixed, and you've got yourself a great unit. $20. I think we have a winner here. This is a great turntable. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if somebody can help me date this, I would really appreciate this because so far I've not been able to do so. So one thing that's really impressive too is that it just works right out of the gate. Because a lot of times people will take the record player to the thrift store because the belt's broken. So I know already that the belt works, which is a great thing. And like I said, their testing can be as simple. Oh gosh, that went flying. I made a junior mistake, a beginner's mistake. You should cover it with your hand because those circlips love to go flying like that one just did. Okay, so how do we get this thing off? It's such a low profile that it's hard to even get out. But yeah, it was great to see that the belt worked. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Getting the belt back on is going to be fun. I can already tell you that. All right, so this is very similar to an automatic turntable. Interesting that the belt goes all the way around the outside edge. There's no sub-platter. Isn't that interesting? And there is the insides of the platter and a pretty big belt because, like I said, that they're not using a sub-platter design. It literally just goes around the platter, which is good. I would say that adds to the stability. And you can see right here, this is a common, we've seen this before on like the Iowa type automatics and the LP60s and stuff like that, the Crosley C400s. You can see how much of that design is about the auto return, which surprises me that it's not, that it doesn't take less to pull that off and that it's not about the fully automatic capability. Looks like there is a power switch down there if you want to switch it to 220. And interesting that the motor is back there, which how do you think you would replace? Let's see if we can get a look at that. How would you replace the belt if you can't thread it up and over that pulley? I do see a little crimp in the belt, which means that this has spent some time just sitting in place. I'm glad that that's not leading to a lot of fluctuation in speed. You didn't see it like jerking when it was, playing on the test disc there, on the strobe disc. So that's a good sign. But let's take a closer look down there. All right, so there is a look at that motor spindle. Look at this. It looks like you literally would be up a creek if you wanted to replace this belt because you can't lift it up and over that pulley. You can't even really see the pulley. Okay, I just did the entire take without the record button being hit, so that's awesome. So yeah, this is bizarre. I've never seen anything quite like it, you guys. I was fiddling with this, trying to get the belt back on camera. It's going to be tricky, and you're mostly just going to see my hands. So instead of doing that, is there a date code on this? I don't know. Hard to say. You know who the master of date codes is? Is via Westlife. He can tell me. He can look at any number anywhere on the unit and be like, oh yeah, that was made September 3rd, 1987. So if you're watching, please be my guest. I still haven't dated this thing. I'm leaning towards like 2010 to 15 at this point. I don't know why, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, this is bizarre how this is, not permanently affixed. There's got to be a way to replace it, but I'm really glad that this belt still works. So I am going to put the belt back on and we'll try to go in the bottom of the unit and see what we can see down there. Okay, so I've got the screws out. There's like 4 or 5 screws around the outside. I've got this to sort of try and protect the dust cover. Let's go ahead and find out what we got. Whoa, cool. I love looking at this kind of stuff. Very interesting. Okay, wow. All right. Let me take a look and see what we got. Okay, so maybe we have a clue as to who made it. Yeah, Horng. And a chemical warning, which is always fun. Typical metal pull control there for the speed select. Actually, that might be the reject. And the armature for the auto return. There's the board. Now this is interesting, guys. That is a Matsushita motor. That's surprising. Matsushita, the company behind Technics and Panasonic. There is the power supply, the DC transformer, and then another switch up there. That is pretty much it. This is not grounded, at least not that I can tell from this side. Everything looks very solid, very legit. So we might have really hit pay dirt here for 20 bucks, you guys. All right, guys, and that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing if you haven't done so already. But that's going to do it for now. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.